Maika, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad at all. I've got a lovely funky
Good.
background behind me, which is,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wish I could put a fun background, but didn't think to do it.
I'm just paying some guys to just stand behind me with a massive bit of cardboard. That's what it
Just
is.
love that. Yeah, no, I should have done that.
No, listen, I like it. The blinds down. That's a good approach. If the blinds were open right now, what would I see?
You would actually see a lot of trees. I'm like pretty much in a forest, so I feel like the background would have been great, but I got notes that like light coming from back was, I was backlit. I was just a silhouette, and they asked me to close the blinds. So
Oh man, because trees are so on point. They're so on point for this
I mean,
movie.
it would have been perfect. It would have been a perfect background, let me tell you.
Oh man, that's the thing. But Significant Other is a movie that is tough to discuss without getting into spoiler territory.
Oh, it is certainly tough. I wish you luck, and I'm here to help whenever you need it.
We've got 15 minutes. I figure we could just spend a large chunk of that just sitting in silence and reflecting.
I think that would be great. I would love that.
I think that works for podcasts.
I agree. No, I think it would be nice for people just kind of, zen, really.
Reflecting on what you're about to see when you see Significant Other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
yes.
Yeah, because it's difficult to talk about. That's the problem with Significant Other. But it's a movie that I think is going to live with me for a long time, and I imagine it lives with you still because every day you open your window and there's great big bloody trees, and you must be plunged back into the film.
Absolutely. It's an absolute nightmare for me. So it's awesome. Great. I am traumatized.
It does look like a very traumatic shoot. I'm imagining it was quite cold and wet and all those things.
It certainly was. I mean, I loved it, and then also at times, was slightly, I wouldn't use the word miserable, but like, it would be, we were doing night shoots and it was like absolute downpour rain. We're in like mud. I'm like on the ground, like, crying and terrified of something. And I was like, God, man, this is great. I love my job.
Oh, for a warm set. Oh, for a warm trailer.
Oh, yeah. No, but I mean, it was like, honestly, so much fun because Dan and Bobby, the two directors, are hysterical and an absolute pleasure to work with. And also Jake. I mean, Jake is an absolute dream to work with. So, we really bonded on this movie through all the ups and downs,
But as you mentioned, the two directors are who with whom you've worked in the past, of course. So I imagine
I have, yes.
you must have bonded already then. And did they?
Yeah, it was totally. Yeah, I mean, I had, I think I had shot maybe 2 movies sort of back to back going into shooting Villains,
Mm-hmm.
and which was the previous movie I did with these directors. And I just like, I wasn't, I don't know. I just, they were 2 projects that I didn't really enjoy. And I was like, kind of like, what am I, if I'm not enjoying it, like, what am I doing? And then I went to go film Villains. I was like, oh man, like, hope for the best. And I just had like truly such an incredible time. And working with these directors, it reminded me what I love about making movies and that it can be so much fun. Not only are we like, it's certain things are serious, we have to be but like just like enjoying the process of making a movie, because it's 1 in a million, a movie gets, and it was just, yeah, it was like, it really was so important to me, that movie, and when it came in my life. And so yeah, when they came to me with this next script, I was just like, oh man, I hope the script is good, because I adore the 2 of them, and was just, I also had never worked with directors, or a director twice.
Yeah. So what was it like? Was the second time? I mean, first time clearly seems to be pretty good, but was second time the charm, as they say?
I mean, yeah, it was really, there was something so comforting about coming into a movie where you like knew these people and they were, they've been a part of my life since shooting Villains. They've met my family. We will have dinners together. And so there was just this like, natural chemistry, and we both know how the other works. And so we can really very quickly tap into that, which is so convenient. With a movie at this scale, we didn't have a ton of time for rehearsals and whatnot. And so just kind of like already having the groundwork was just so helpful.
And but I imagine you're out there, as we say, in the cold, in the forest, and you go to some pretty, again, we're tiptoeing around stuff, but you go to some pretty dark places in this movie, and some pretty raw places emotionally as well. And if you're being directed by, I'm just guessing here, but if you're directed by a director that you've met for the first time, that maybe, I don't know if that's easier to get to those places. And if suddenly then you're being directed by people who are now your friends, does that make it? Yeah. Does that impact the process a little bit?
I mean, it's interesting. I guess I really hadn't thought of it that way, but perhaps it did. But it didn't feel more challenging. It felt like I could get to those places maybe quicker, because I just like, for me as an actor, I use a lot of like personal experiences and things, and I think that they, I've known them for so long now, and I feel like they're able to kind of maybe more push me in a way that is nice. And so I don't know, for me, I'd want to do it again, work with someone. I don't know. It was interesting.
Like I say, I think it's a great opportunity for you to dig into a lot of stuff. And the movie in many ways is a 90-minute anxiety attack. And that's something that your character, Ruth, undergoes quite palpably as well. It's depicted really, 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 really well. And that must be fascinating, I imagine, for you to get into and dig into.
Oh yeah, it's tough. Honestly, after filming this movie, I was like, okay, I think I need a break from being terrified and like panic attack after panic. Like I'm just gonna like take a minute, because when you read a script, you're like, oh, this is awesome, this character, like there's so much depth. And then you get on set and you're like, oh, right, I have to like physically and mentally go through this as well. And so, no, it was so hard, truly. It was tough. But, thank God for like Jake, who's such a great actor, and working off him, like, that's what makes the job easier.
Absolutely. And the last time you were on this podcast, you came to London a few years ago, and you had that that wonderful 1-2 punch of It Follows and The Guest.
Oh yes.
And you were talking about not enjoying the last couple of projects post or pre-Villains, really.
Yeah.
And post those movies, were you inundated with similar roles and similar options, and was it tricky for you to navigate your way through that in the wake of those two films?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, also like it was just so unexpected. Of course I had been a fan of Adam and went in and auditioned with him, and I was like, oh, this guy's cool. But again, I was just trying to like make money to pay for rent and to feed myself, so it wasn't like a ton of thought went into these two movies that just absolutely blew up. And so after the success, it was just like, whoa, it was like so much opportunity came, but also with that, you hope to navigate it in the best way, but you can only really have a plan. I don't know, it's impossible. But I mean, I don't know. I was like super lucky.
Yeah,
really is all it is.
I'm pretty sure at the time we spoke about that idea that you can get offered a lot of horror films.
Oh yeah.
Not that The Guest is necessarily a horror film, but it has
Yeah.
it has a lot of the trappings, and
Under
that.
that umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in a way, I imagine that happened, and in a way, you must have wanted to run away from that label, that definition of you.
Yeah, I think so. But also, I've spoken about this before, but it Follows came out the same time as The Witch and Babadook, two other horror films I think were truly exceptional. And those three movies, not to but I really think there was a shift in the horror genre, and those three movies were incredibly inspiring to a lot of people, a lot of filmmakers, a lot of up and coming filmmakers. And I think around that time and since then, there's been a real depth to the horror genre, and a real elegance and complicated characters. And I don't know. I mean, I grew up loving horror. And then I think there was a period of time where a lot of horror was, very flashy and get the sexy people and the blood and everyone's naked and you're like, okay. But I think there's been a real shift in there. It's really very elevated, and incredible filmmakers are making very cool movies in this genre. So yeah, of course, you want to be careful not to get stuck in this space, but also I don't know, I've done a bunch of movies and a lot of them aren't horror, but for whatever reason, these horror movies do really well and people really connect with them. And I'm just so damn lucky I get to do this for a living. And it's pretty special,
Absolutely. And, speaking of working with directors for a second time, Adam Wingard's actually working with Dan Stevens right now on Godzilla versus Kong 2, and they're knocking seven bells out of each other. And Adam, I don't know if you've noticed this thing. You saw this thing where he released the soundtrack for The Guest 2.
Yes.
Before there's a Guest 2.
To approve some cover visuals, and no, I've been hearing of this. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then he said to us that he might make The Guest 2 as a result of that. He wasn't planning to, but now he thinks he might do. So, just saying, throwing it out there.
I mean, I'm Adam, I'm around. I could be interested.
That could be interesting.
I'm well, I wonder what would happen next.
I want to know what happens next because it's one of the great endings in modern cinema, and I need to know what happens
incredible.
next.
The ending is, it's perfect. No, that's endless possibility, really. So
we shall see what happens. Well, there you go, Maika Monroe. I'm going to let you go, but absolute pleasure. Thanks once again.